Today we're in the western edges of the City of London. We're near the Barbican and Cripplegate, and we're going to be looking at Barber Surgeons Hall and the skill and art of barber surgery. In the Middle Ages, barber surgeons were general medical practitioners, usually charged with caring for soldiers during and after battle. In this era, surgery was seldom conducted by physicians, but instead by barbers. Physicians were more consultants. They completed numerous tasks ranging from cutting hair to amputating limbs, so quite a range of activities there. The Barber Surgeons Hall has been here since about the 1440s on the western edges, northwestern edges of the city, as we said, near Cripplegate and Barbican. The Fellowship of Surgeons merged with the Barbers Company in 1540, formed the Company of Barbers and Surgeons, but after the rising professionalism of the surgery trade, it broke away in 1745 to form what would become the Royal College of Surgeons. The company no longer retains an association with the hairdressing profession and principally acts as a charitable institution for medical and surgical causes. Today the hall is often used as an events function, and I've just dropped in a few pictures to show you how magnificent the interior of the hall looks. We're now moving on to one of my favourite topics, the construction of the Roman London Wall. The Romans constructed a substantial fort here before building the London Wall about AD 98 to 117. Another 100 years after that, the Romans decided to build a wall around the Cripplegate settlement, extending around the landward side and also along the riverfront of the Thames. The original walls of the fort were not as thick as the Roman wall, and when the wall around Londinium was constructed, the northern and western sides of the fort were thickened to match the thickness of the rest of the wall. We're now looking at Bastion 14 on the Roman wall, and this is by the London Wall car park. The London Wall, Roman wall, continued as a defence of the city through Norman times right up to the 18th century. In 1760, the city decided that the Roman wall was no longer required and started to take large sections of it down, though as we know, parts of it remained, certainly in this area of the city, and especially by Tower Bridge. Future developments including the nearby build of the Museum of London, the Barbican and the landscaping of the green space along the line of the old Roman wall resulted in the lowering of the ground level and the exposure of a considerable part of the bastion. We're now going to look into the skill and the profession of the barber surgeon, and we've dropped in some pictures of some of the equipment that the barber surgeon would have used. As we said earlier, physicians perform surgery very rarely, so during the Middle Ages we saw this proliferation of barbers amongst other medical paraprofessionals, including, and I'll try and get the pronunciation right here, cataract couchers, herniatomists, lithotomists, midwives and pig gilders. I know some of that sounds very painful. Also in the Middle Ages, due to religious and sanitary monastic regulations, monks had to maintain their tonsure. This created a market for barbers because each monastery had to train or hire a barber. We're about to view the barber surgeon's physic garden. So where did this connection with, shall we say, horticulture come from? We know that in October 1555 the clerk was given an allowance for trimming, sweeping and weeding the garden, and in 1630 the company brought 100 sweet briars, probably to form a stout hedge, and also plants of rosemary, strawberry, violets and vines. In October 1967, past master Sir John McNee proposed that the corporation create a physic garden. The current physic garden is on the site of the 13th bastion of the 21 bastions built by Emperor Hadrian in around AD 122. Eventually the garden was constructed on a derelict bomb site in 1987 on the initiative of past master Sir Francis Avery Jones and by the Parks and Gardens Department of the Corporation of London, who managed the garden together with the company's honorary curator. The design of the garden aims to present a broad view of the way in which plants may have been used from the earliest times to the present day in relation to both the practice of medicine and surgery and to the use of plants in domestic and civic environments. The plants selected were especially mentioned by former Master James Gerard in his Great Herbal, the garden is open to the public and is approached from Wood Street via St Giles Church. Bastion 13 is in the background to the physic garden. We're now moving around in the direction of the Barbican and the Church of St Giles without Cripplegate. Now, the pond pool that we see here could have been formed from the London Wall ditch. Now, the ditch was filled in about 200 odd years ago, but possibility is there. Apologies there, the ditch was more likely filled in about 400 years ago. I particularly like the water features, and we're just moving around, as I said, in the direction of the church and Bastion 12. So let's for a few moments enjoy this particularly attractive water feature. During the 13th century, a series of rounded supports called bastions were added to the outside of the Roman wall. As we said earlier, there were 21 bastions in total, which in the 70s were numbered by Ralph Merrifield and listed on a map produced for his book entitled Roman London. In front of us we can see the Barber Surgeons wildflower meadow. Now this was created in May 2021 in order to help with pollinators, and sits rather well close to the physic garden and the London Wall. I particularly like it. We're on the outer edges of the Barbican development, and we'll be looking soon at the history of Cripplegate, one of the 7 gates of the City of London. The word Cripplegate takes its name from the Anglo-Saxon word crepple, meaning a covered or underground passageway. Another unsubstantiated theory suggests its name comes from the cripples who used to beg here. We've just arrived at the Church of St Giles without Cripplegate. It's an Anglican church just within the boundaries of the City of London, located on 4th Street within the modern Barbican complex. Oliver Cromwell, military commander and Lord Protector of England during the Commonwealth 1649 to 1660, married Elizabeth Bourchier here in the church 1620. Other famous people associated with the church include John Bunyan, author of The Pilgrim's Progress, and we saw his tomb at the burial grounds of Bunhill Fields. And the great Rick Wakeman, lover of cats and lover of Suffolk and Norfolk and East Anglia, keyboardist, recorded his track Jane Seymour here, and the pipe organ parts in the 3rd section of the S track, Close to the Edge. In 1760 we saw the last of the Cripplegate, which up until then had been used as a storehouse and a prison, was then sold to a carpenter in Coleman Street for the wonderful sum of £91, which was a lot of money in those days. The church was situated just outside the wall at Cripplegate, hence its name of St Giles without Cripplegate. We're going to show you some pictures of the outside of the church, and then we're going to go into the church for a while and listen to some wonderful organ music. I hope you've enjoyed the vlog. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you'd like us to come back and explain a little bit more about the skill of barber surgery, then happy to do that. So that's it from the England Flaneurs. I hope to see you again soon.